If there is someone who should burn in hell, is him, and I'm saying it because the the
That's a
catastrophe
mean thing to say
that
about someone you don't know.
the
Yeah,
what
I'm gonna have to disagree with this one. He was just a irresponsible bitch
who happened to die. Look,
who happened to die. Yeah.
the,
He
the
was killed.
criminal
He was killed.
himself doesn't. I don't care about him. George Floyd, the symbol, is the issue I have
Yeah.
with because thanks
Ah,
to the
I
movement
agree.
that grew out of his death, the seed of increased anti-Semitism was planted because the new BLM, alongside with the pro-Hamas movement, have merged together into an insane alliance.
Yeah.
Well, it's
Uh,
also the hijacking. I mean, on our end of things, like
But
here in Israel, the example of that is the family of Gilad Shalit when he was kidnapped. I mean, everybody wishes nothing but the like wished for 5 years, nothing but the best, and then he comes home. But the same general mechanism that's really just extreme left wing politics and center left politics and some and a good deal of reasonable people too, just sort of coalesced around that to gain political clout. That it just
are we
became
talking in the United States or in Israel?
talking about in Israel
All right, because
because
I'm trying to understand your argument exactly what you're
the
referring to.
the amount of pressure that the left the amount of twisting that the left here in Israel and the center left in Israel and just anyone who was against Bibi used the Shalit family in order to like the reason why we gave that many prisoners back for Gilad Shalit was not was principally because of political reasoning. It was the pressuring created and the media pressure created by their shitty attempts to basically abuse that family when their kid kidnapped. And now we're seeing it again.
Let me put it. This is why what I actually think. I want to believe that the government gives a shit about the hostage families and the hostages themselves and everyone. The problem is it's not what I'm seeing. It's not what it looks like. It looks like they just want to rip us off and screw us over. I'm saying it's a perception that matters, and there, and
Oh yeah.
uh, and I no matter if you're for or against Netanyahu, the, he is doing a shitty job on the perception front of anything.
There are some regards in which that's incorrect, but overall I'd say correct. Like I agree completely, but with some exceptions. Like there are critical world powers that we rely upon where he is the right messenger and he's good with that. He's cunning with that. But I mean, a question towards you, for example, do you authentically believe that Bibi is more concerned about his political future than he is about the safety of the hostages? Like, but let me ask it this way:
oh no,
if
it's
he could get,
100% about
if he,
him and his survival. It's 100% about him and
hang
his
on, I'm,
survival
but,
He wants to hear
for
my
any
response.
politician.
I want to hear everyone, but I mean, but the question that but I really want to hear the Israelis first because they're the ones who have to vote for him, and I've been dealing with him for a really long time.
I want to believe that he cares, but all I have seen is antagonism against the hostage families because it appears like uh, the government have brought itself into a political catch
Like,
22 around the issue, which
quagmire.
looks like could be wrong. I'm not saying it's what it is. I'm saying it what it looks like, and the perception is bad. So I
Right?
guess the question is, what I would counter is what is more likely that that BB is so incompetent that he allows himself to be perceived as not giving a shit, or really don't give a shit, because that's what I'm trying to understand. If the perception is true, or if it's just a
But
misunderstanding or reality.
I understand the message. I understand why you head towards the messaging about it, and I see the reflex, but that is frankly dodging the question I was actually asking.
Sorry, I
What
get.
what like,
I don't trust him.
but
I
let me ask it differently. But let me ask it differently.
All right.
If we were if the situation was such that and I know it's an unrealistic hypothetical, but if the situation was authentically such that if Bibi resigned, every hostage would be let go, do you think that Bibi would allow that to happen?
No.
No. Okay. Which that's I mean, you don't have to talk about just the messaging because if already that's what you don't believe about him, obviously the messaging is wrong. So either he's functionally doing something wrong, or he's just messaging what he's doing incorrectly, or he's just cunning and shit like that, and you're not seeing what he's really up to. Think about
My
Bibi.
big
Is he
concern,
never? Is he
my
never
big
fucking know
concern,
what he's actually up to?
my big concern about Bibi is not, unlike many of the crazy anti-Bibi who hate him. I don't give a shit either way. My concern with him, not that he is corrupt. My issue with him is that
Incompetent.
exactly that he's incompetent, and that what worries me.
I
He
mean, he was the
appears to.
one. Like we currently have the least incompetent for keeping our asses safe in charge, but that does not a good situation. But like I think the best way I've thought of it so far to put my opinion of it is if I could have a clone of Bibi 1-to-1 and just remove the fact that he had the biggest failure in the history of security of our country, I would vote for that person in a second. Like Bibi without October 7th would be perfect for the current situation.
October
Like
7th fell on a
for
lot more people than just Bibi.
Oh, of course, of course, of
course.
course. But I'm saying, I'm not saying responsibility for it, but he was still the man in charge when it happened.
True,
And
true.
I can't reconcile that internally. That like I will support him because it's the least shitty option for me right now. And I sincerely hope that there were less shitty options available. But I mean, if it was Bibi versus Bibi without October 7th, obviously everyone's going for the Bibi option, because of the situation that we're in. So because we need someone who's got his cunning and his ability to relate with North Americans and his ability to be a shitty politician who's always gaming something.
I just think I wish that the standard for our politicians would have been higher. That's all I'm thinking.
Yeah, I mean, if you look back at Golda Meir, Abe Ban, Begin, any of the big names, you just knew that they had their shit together. Even during the Yom Kippur War, it was one of the biggest abject failure. It was the biggest failure at the time.
True.
But still, you knew that they had shit under control, and you weren't worried about if our closest allies are going to 180 on us or something like that. I mean, there was worry about that, but you knew that they were the best person for the job, and that generally they were good at their job. And
All I
I mean,
believe is that just like the Yom Kippur War, the major responsibility for the fuck up that is October 7th is to be laid on the hand on the feet of the IDF. In the end of the day, they're the ones who failed. They failed both in the intelligence level and in the
that's
security, in active security as well.
but it's the natural Israeli. It's the most expected Israeli response to anything not working. Is always everyone's going to point to everybody else until it's just more of a headache to figure out who did something wrong than it's just pick someone at random and focus on them.
No, I
Like
agree, and that is a problem because all this circus around the uh, how do I say it in English? ועדת חקירה ממלכתית, איך אומרים את זה באנגלית?
the not the civilian. Hang on a second.
Uh,
The internal investigation. No. Overview. No, the ombudsman is the actual way to. The actual word for it is an ombudsman, but nobody in English, nobody speaks English. Like maybe 1 out of 10 people who speak English know what an ombudsman is. An ombudsman is a person in an organization or a company whose sole job is to be critical of it and to find areas where they can investigate issues that go wrong.
yeah,
So like, like in a bank, an ombudsman is a person who like, okay, we found $1 million missing. The ombudsman is the one who conducts the internal investigation that is available for everybody to see. And like by nature, they're separate from the company. Like
Nice.
they're part of the company, but they're separate from any employees or anything.
I want this internal state internal internal investigation, not because I want someone's head to roll over. I want it to happen so the people who need to protect us learn how everything failed that day and to ensure it won't happen again like this.
Yeah, yeah, and not just that. I'm quite confident, just from my time in Miluim, that nobody learned any. Like again, this is not again. I'm hearing so many of the same things I heard in the Second Lebanon War. Like in many regards, with regards to gear, with regards to the readiness of the army, like how ready the equipment in the Yamachim is, how ready, how ready the logistics arm of the army is to respond to a major attack. Like if tomorrow Egypt actually decides to take a piss and attack us, and Iran at the same time is attacking us, and whatever, and then Hayat Tahrir al-Shams comes across from Syria and just starts rolling across. What are we going to do differently on a day like that than we didn't do that was done poorly on October 7th?
Would you like to know how to deal with Egypt in its current situation? They're lining up on the border. There's no reason to line up on a border unless they're planning something. Drop daisy cutters on them. Cripple them. It's a hostile act to do that. What they're doing.
To understand from some people I'm talking from Egypt, the Egyptians there are en masse, not to invade Israel, rather
To
to
prevent
stop.
Palestinians from coming in.
Exactly, and from what it looks like, I think
But don't forget, my man. I remember very distinctly after the Natkut, when not the during the Arab Spring, sorry, when Hosni Mubarak fell, the time it takes for Egypt to go from an army that we can manage with that is generally doing things that aren't fucking crazy to having the Muslim Brotherhood in charge. That
is
only
very
took
short.
it's only
I
two
know.
weeks. It was 2 weeks between you had Hosni Mubarak, which okay, not a desirable state, but not the worst we've run into,
I know.
and uh,
You're right.
I'm gonna,
I'm not saying that I trust the
we should
Egyptians.
Zentap, let's go, man.
All I think is
Favor, how you doing, man?
that it will be literally them shooting themselves in the foot right now, considering everything.
I mean, that's a whole different can of worms. But I'm actually much more concerned about Syria. Like the situation there is so much more volatile to the point where it could suddenly turn into an open war against what I guess counts as a government right now. I mean, if it's HTS and they just decide, or if they just let ISIS sit on the border and try to come for us, they have a lot of people. Like they have a fuckload of people, and they move quickly. You look at how quickly they went from Aleppo. With how quickly they went from Aleppo down to basically the border of where the Druze are, down to like
Yeah,
Quetta.
but you need to
Like that
remember
was
some of there were some fighters in the south, so it didn't. It's not like exactly the entirety of the rebel force just warped in from northern Syria into southern Syria. In southern
and
Syria, there were still some
there were also
rebel cells as well.
and there were also temporary alliances made just to overthrow Assad, which don't really have any weight to them right now. Like they wouldn't stand any pressure. But that doesn't mean that we can't have 100,000 jihadis from HTS who are combat hardened from 20 years of combat, or sorry, 15 years of combat, give or take, and just decide, okay, we're going to form up into units along the border. We're going to do one strike to distract the IDF, and then we're going to come around another way, or through like partially through Lebanon, partially through Syria, and just flood the place with jihadis. But what I mean to highlight is that I don't think at the moment that the IDF would respond differently today to something like that than it did on October 7th.
You
Because
need to
I
In
have
which
remember
lost.
case they've learned nothing.
the same with
Sorry?
the rebels in Syria is the same
Sorry,
as
man.
with, yeah.
No, Zentap was trying to get a word in edgewise, I think.
Sorry.
I was just saying, if that's the case, then they've learned nothing, and shame on them.
It's yes, but it's more confidence in the war planners. But I'm not sorry. Go ahead. All right, door. Sorry, I cut you off to chime in, Zentap. My bad.
It's okay.
It's all
Uh,
good, man. It's
you need to
crazy
we
situation.
all need to remember that both the rebels and Hamas during their military moves face little to almost no actual resistance. If say for Syria, the the reason why the rebels managed to move so quickly from Aleppo to, am I saying it right? From Aleppo to Damascus, because they didn't encounter any resistance from the Assad regime's forces. Most of
Of
the
course.
reason,
Minimal.
Because the Assad
They came
regime's
very
forces
minimal.
were completely morally depleted, man. They
exactly,
had
that's
no
my point.
motivation.
Which
Exactly my point.
which I would argue that I mean it was moral depletion but also supply depletion. They had a lot of their logistics had not shown up in a
Yeah.
week. Like they were waiting a week for a supply that's supposed to come every 48 hours. And then
You
on
also
top of
had
that, they also hadn't been
I mean,
paid.
it was a
They hadn't been
massive confluence of issues. You had China and Russia all both saying, "Yeah, we're not going
of
to
course.
help you." Iran saying, "Yeah, we're not going to help you." You also had Turkey helping the HTS. So it was a massive
I
confluence of
understand that
the
But
perfect storm.
and then hang on, and then I would add another thing is that you had a lot of the soldiers there who either hadn't been paid or they were being conscripted under
Right.
new terms that have made it so that that fighting in the war was not something that was like a good choice for
Correct.
them. And I would argue that the demoralization aspect, we're not far from it with our current with our Miluimnik base. I know guys who are on their sixth,
Yeah.
seventh in Miluim. Like
Yeah.
they've already been recalled 6 times. I mean, it's
Yeah, I
exhausting.
know.
Like obviously they will still fight. They're not going to run anything close to how
There's not going to
like
be a massive desertion, I hope, in the IDF.
no. That's not what I mean though. What I mean is that at the end of the day, your response, the size of your response to while you're being attacked, is a function of
Mhm.
one, how quick your logistics space is, two, how much you already planned for this exact situation, and how much all the people involved in that plan are ready to move, and three, how fast, like just how many people are going to show up. I mean, yes,
Well,
if Israel's under attack, we're all going to show up. There's no question about that. And I'll happily do another year or 2 or 3 in Miloim if that's what's asked of me. But it
the
has to,
point what
but
I
it
was
can't
trying
be
to
for.
say, it's easy
Mhm.
to have an easy victory on the field when you're the only team on the field. That was I'm essentially trying to say,
Yeah,
both for the
yeah,
rebels and Hamas.
yeah. And I mean, I was one of the earliest people from the center to be in the south on the 7th. Yeah, like I was down there by tough to track time, but like something around 10:30, 11, I was already down south. And that included a trip from my home up to somewhere in the north, which is our rally base, to get basic equipment and a gun and some ammo, and then in a private car head the fuck south as fast as we can. So that was like the fact that I'm one of the, but there's that, but then there's also all the different overlap of forces who don't have communication. Like it's not just a function of how many people, how long it takes them to respond. It's also equipment. I mean, a lot of the advantage the IDF has is our ability to communicate and our ability to coordinate. That's a big advantage over Hamas or HTS's abilities. And the fact that Hamas had radios between each other, and I was in the south, and I have bullets being fired at me by police, Israeli police who don't believe that I'm really IDF, is already enough to fuck up the response, to give them the time they need, to give them all the time they need to just mosey on and kill whoever they want, kidnap whoever they want.
We literally were caught with our pants down. Let's call it how it is.
Pants down would be a very lucky, would be a very fortunate scenario. We were caught without pants, like literally, like I know soldiers who showed up and literally they couldn't get fucking pants. That's not your pants down. That's like, what the fuck? Where are my pants? And there's fucking jihadis roaming in this other country, and you can't get anything like basic equipment. It was fucking abysmal. I'm sorry,
Yes,
I'm sorry that I'm being so uplifting.
it's okay. If it's difficult for you to speak about it, I will understand.
No. It's okay. It's okay. And
I was
I'm
supposed to
working.
go with my family on a picnic to the center south, maybe somewhere south of Savannah.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Somewhat.
and as soon as we started to see that there are missiles launch, we decided, no, you know what? We will not go to the south. We will go some other park close to Hadera, and then we started seeing the trucks, and then we started to see the the hordes, and then we started to seeing the fires and everything that was on TV, and we in the end didn't go anywhere because we were stuck
But like,
to
but,
to
but
the
here's but
TV.
here's but here's something like if you're talking about have they learned anything? Let me tell you in a sec. I gotta shut up my dog. Pardon me a sec.
I'm just sharing my.
I get it. I'm just sharing mine. Sorry, what I meant to say is you're talking about readiness. Hey, bring inside now. You shush. Sorry about this. Sorry about the shouting. My dog is just bad neighbors. What can I say? Here's one thing that could be taken that hasn't even. There's so many things that are just good ideas that I remember being ideas after the second Lebanon War that are not. I'm sorry, so Vic. Bring inside right fucking now. Inside. Sorry. So like, okay, here's a perfect example of something that hasn't come up that would immediately make readiness of Miloim Nakim who are still at home right now, or just on leave, ready. Give them a stipend that they can like, or a card that they can use at any shop like Ricochet, any camping store, anything like that, for specifically the purposes of having camping equipment and having military equipment. If somebody wants to buy a private plate carrier, if they want to buy a vest from like Mount Dauphin or something like that privately, give them money or a tax deduction, make it a tax deductible thing, okay? Or make it very easy for Miloimnikim to buy an M4, like buying an assault rifle that they would the same that they would use in their normal service, buying it privately and having the security for it. Like make
I
that something
always,
tax free.
I agree. I always believed that Israel in this regard should have been like the United States in the regard that people should own their own weapons.
Yeah, I wouldn't let it that way. I know too many idiots here and people who would definitely be irresponsible and pointless with a firearm. Like,
True, but on the
because
other hand, all the Arabs here have guns, so the only way to fight illegal guns is legal. The only way to fight against illegal guns is legal guns.
When I made Aliyah, I had a very nice rifle collection to bring with me, and it was effectively told by the government of Israel, literally by the ambassador to Washington D.C., you cannot bring those, you must sell them. It's a shame because I had
or store them.
What was the
It's a
stuff?
crying shame, and also it's a crying shame, and the sort of bipolar attitude towards gun ownership here in the country is really bullshit. But to speak on your point, Dor, it's not just the issue of gun ownership, because it's also competence in a fire situation or in a pressure situation. Because what you got to remember is when you're in a terrorist attack or when you're being shot at or when you're shooting, your brain is not functioning, and you're working on just stress hormones and reflex. It's
right,
like
but people who have been trained as soldiers and who know what to do with the arms should not have to be restricted.
But it's
And they still do.
It shouldn't be a massive, massive, massive pain in the ass to do that. It's not just that it isn't being actively done. It's there are actively tons of obstacles in my way to doing that.
Yep.
I mean, like they will arm me anytime they need me, but then afterwards I'm like, okay, I'm happy to volunteer 2 nights a week to do patrols with the police, and I'm part of my Kitat Konanut, but still I can't privately own or just even rent it or just like lease it from the police. Like there has to be an authority somewhere where, but I just mean like if my objective is to make myself more ready, more prepared as a Miloimnik, there is zero effort to do that, and there is negative effort in the sense that there are actively many things that prevent me from doing that.
Right.
True.
Although in the last year they did, well, it was mostly for PR, and it was a very short-lived effort. But there were some efforts by, I don't know if it was the Homefront Command, I think it was Homefront Command, that trained civilians to use long guns and gave them a type of modified M4. I don't know if you remember that, but that about a year or so ago,
I was in the war. I mean, I was in the war at the time, but like,
they were basically handing out rifles to people in cities and across the country, in different places.
But that's the thing, is that the
areas that patrols and kind of thing.
But that's the thing. The areas where that was being done is the areas where it was already really easy to get a long rifle if you're a civilian. Like it's. I mean, if you go to but if you go to Yitzhar or you go to Alon Shvud right now, the citizens who live there, they all have M16s. Now, I don't get how they're in the dangerous area and they're the same people apparently that are the responsible gun owners, and yet I've spent 20 years, 3 years draft service, and now 17 years in reserves, and I've been in 4 fucking wars for the country, and yet I'm not a responsible gun owner, and that I want that so that
I hear you, bro. I
have 2 kids. I have two of my reserve children are in the police, and they showed up on October 7th with a vest because they had it from work. They had an M4 that is kitted out to all hell. They're all ready to go, helmet, everything like that. So they didn't have to worry about getting any equipment or shit like that. They just brought their car, said, "Guys, whoever's got shit, hop in the car," and we headed south. Like, and like one of my kids from Utah, whose father is involved a lot with military contractors and military manufacturing. Like when he heard about October 7th, Buddy stops by the 6 Hour factory and picked up 2 duffel bags full of like rangefinders. And Buddy, of course, he's this kind of guy. If you met the guy, you'd know that all of what I'm about to say is perfectly in place. But like he had a bag of radios that he had vetted that they were from a reliable source that can't be hacked and stuff like this, and he had bought like the circuit boards needed to do acoustic coupling for encrypting the communications, and like he engineered his own encrypted radio network and then packed it in a backpack and brought it with him to Israel, so that because he knows in advance that it's the IDF. Your best case scenario for a platoon is you're going to have maybe 20 radios that properly work, and then half of those are going to break within the first couple of bits, and then half of the remainder aren't going to be within range of each other. So and then he was, and then the whole time I was around him, like as soon as we were done the first stint of reserves, what does he do? He's like, we had been pinging back and forth ideas, and he wanted to make like repeaters that were cheap to make. So he wanted to get a whole bunch of printed circuit boards for something that would work with the same encryption and rebroadcasting that he did. And if we're in an area, he can just every 2 kilometers we walk, just throw one on the ground, and it functions as a repeater. Like they're disposable essentially, and they don't have any of the encryption on them that could actually give away the comms. Like this is the kind of preparation. Like the fact that this kid has the resources and the know-how to do that is wonderful. The fact that he has to do it with his own coin and basically pay taxes when he does it as well, and that there's zero motivation is just. So that's when I look at that. But when I look at that, it's not so much like, and on top of that, I've been in enough wars in this country to know that the same situation of the equipment that I showed up at the wartime equipment storages, the Amachim, that the state of the equipment the next time I go to war is going to be the same as it was this time. It's going to be, they're definitely, we're going to have a bunch of reviews and a bunch of internal investigations, and they'll find 1 or 2 people who will be in charge. And of course, we learned these lessons, and still the state of it's going to be shit. I mean, like it's abysmal that you can't. Because I mean, the day I got home from Miluim, do my laundry. Day number 2, I pack my go bag. So I have 2 bags, right. One for the north, one for the south. That are my go bags for Miluim, and then I got my one. That's my like supply thing, which is like smokes, coffee, shampoo, just the basics, the stuff that is all supply shit. That if you can bring it, good. If not, leave it and then try to get it back to you later. But like that readiness costed me a fucking fortune. None of my kids in Miluim have got fucking the resources to get that ready when they get home. They go home, they see their family, they eat some food, and they get back to work as much as they can. Sorry, I'm being too optimistic.
It is a shit show.
Yeah.
You're being a realist, Daniel.
It's a proverbial shit show.
No, it's a literal shit show. Like
yeah. Yep.
You want a literal shit show, try being stuffed. Like, again, you have a lot of bases, especially in the north, bases and small cities, towns, stuff like that, where the capacity to hold people and like the capacity of a base designed to hold one machlaka, which is like one company, is be holding like 2 platoons. Where the hallways are full of beds, or they're just people just hang bed sheets on them to call rooms, shit like that. Where it's like a kitchen that is made to feed 20, 30 soldiers suddenly has to feed 300 to 500, depending on the day. So you bring, shit. Here, if you're looking at my stream, I can show you some of the pieces are missing. But hang on, let me get my let me find my bakal bishul. Here we go. It's got some pieces missing, but yeah. It's like you feel like a fucking prepper sometimes, but then you realize it's not a bad idea. All right, this is just like basically a picnic bag, and a lot of pieces are missing, but it's basically it had a gazia, like a gas canister with a stove. It's got a frying pan. It's got a kettle that unpacks. Got small cutting boards, and it also had like 10 plastic plates that are basically indestructible. Basically camping gear, the kind of stuff you would bring if you were to go camping now for 10 days. So that's enough that as long as you're able to obtain some sort of food, you can cook it and make it edible for 10 to 15 people for a week. So it's like basic spices, sugar, tea, everything you would need. So I'm not getting reimbursed for that.
No, obviously. No. You should be, but that's not how the government works.
But that's the thing and yet people are yelling and screaming about an extremist right-wing government here who's crazy and militant. Okay, I'm literally in the fucking military, and I can't get this type of shit done. There's literally nobody on either side who's thinking about doing this. So
yeah.
My goal, to answer what you were talking about earlier, I am not optimistic about us having learned fucking anything.
I don't know
absolutely.
Anymore.
Well, I mean, there's been no accountability by the sitting government. They don't want accountability because
I'm much less concerned about the accountability involved. Like that, sure, it'll come.
But that's why the lessons haven't been learned, because that's the whole thing in the culture.
You're still in Israel. Right? You're still in Israel. It's still going to be. You're going to get bogged down by everybody being like, I wasn't the one who made that decision. This guy is. Okay, right. Now we get to spend a week investigating him, and then it rolls on until eventually 1 or 2 people get moved. They don't get replaced. They get moved. That's the thing. Dan Hagari and Herzia Levy, fine. They're technically gone. Where do you think Herzia Levy is about to work? Is he going to be with a military contractor, or is he going to be with some large business in the country?
Yeah,
and he's going to have it. and he's going to have political influence in some way, and we'll hear from him
Of
again.
course.
In
Of
15,
course.
10 years, you're going to see Herzl Levy talking about the next war, the
Yep.
fourth Lebanon War and how it ought to be conducted better than
Yep.
the last time when he commanded during October 7th.
But that's why accountability matters, because, and when I say accountability, I don't just mean an investigation that finds the wrongdoing. No, fire the schmucks who are responsible for this and make a show of it so that it deters people from doing the same stupid things again in the future. But like you said, we're in Israel, so everyone's going to point fingers and not want to take blame. But that's why they need to have, that's why we need to have actually accountability where people do lose their jobs and people do get shamed out of office and people do get forcibly retired from ever doing what they were doing before on that day. Because otherwise, who is going to be deterred from doing the same stupid things again? Nobody.
But it's not just that. I would compound with that again, something that you mentioned, which I mean, it'll never happen because you're asking politicians in Israel to vote against something that makes them money.
Yeah,
but
and
prohibiting
the disconnect between the people, how great the people are here, and how politicians here, it's jarring.
Yes.
We are willing to Israelis when we vote. It's like nobody knows that I'm firmly of the belief that Israelis, when they go to vote, they have not looked at a single thing that the person that they end up voting for and that they may consider otherwise has actually said or done or publicized about. They just, how do they feel about the person that day when they walk into the voting booth? Maybe best case scenario, they look up a couple of things on the news the week before.
Which is an entirely the problem with having a Knesset where everybody thinks they're the prime minister because they don't actually represent a constituency.
Yeah.
We vote for parties, we don't vote for people, and that is a corrupt way to run a so-called democracy. It's not really a democracy if you just vote for a party.
It's but when we say to talk about democracy again, the last 10 elections have all either been only Bibi or only not Bibi. That's literally the last 10 elections that we've had.
Again, because we don't vote for actual people. We like the Knesset member that gets in, the Knesset is a bunch of party lists that internally decide who gets to be what number on their list. That's not a real way to vote for
I think democracy-wise, I think that for Israel, an alternate vote system, like similar to what they have in France, where you actually vote for 5 parties, and then like in when you number them 1 through 5, and then if the first one you selected doesn't have a majority, then or doesn't have above a certain percentage, then your vote moves to the next one on the list. It would actually be very healthy. It would be much healthier.
And it would also be useful if they would just make 120 districts across the country, and each district has its own representative in the Knesset.
Yeah. I can see the merit in that, but it would need, like, first of all, to get there is a long road.
I mean, like if you live in Eilat, you have completely different needs than if you live in Metula.
Yeah, but I mean,
on a day-to-day basis.
But the problem is, when in history, when that happens, and when stuff like that has been tried in the country historically, and what ends up happening is that it gets to be very similar to like kind of like the U.S., kind of like the Electoral College in the U.S., where you do end up with which is 2-3 swing districts, and that's all anybody cares about.
Yeah.
Okay, but it takes a long time to get there.
Well, yeah.
And it took the U.S. a couple hundred years to become as bipolarized as it is. And I don't think Israel would become so bipolarized so quickly.
I think Israel is not really that bipolarized. It's just on the surface it appears like that.
Well, I think it's more that Israel, like if you watch news here in Israel, like I don't know many Israelis who watch Channel 14 and aren't fully aware that what they're going to see is 1 or 2 minutes of what happened today that is important, and then 45 minutes of here's a loaded agenda and talking points for the right wing. And the same thing for Channel 12 and the same thing for Channel 8. It's just pick your extreme media bias and your extreme political bias, and then be like every Israeli I know who's I would consider at all informed. They really are aware that they're watching like the extreme media hate machine in action. And like none of them are oblivious to it. I don't know many people who watch Channel 12 see something there that is very clearly like loaded leftist, and they're not aware of it at all. But I mean,
guys, I gotta drop off. I'll talk to you guys later. Have a great day.
Thanks for sharing. Take it easy.
Be well. Oop, I was too late.
Yeah, I think I'm going to rest now. See you later.
Feel better, man.
Thanks.
Yeah. It's just us.
It is just
Lexi?
us, Daniel. What's up? Ugh.
Sweet. No, I'm pretty good. I have a hangover, so I'm just working on cooking to get over it. Bagel. Nice. Besides that, it was good.
I think watching you cook is one of my favorite pastimes, dude.
I was watching some of your shorts, and you come off as a little bit kooky, I gotta say.
It's all good.
Okay. My head hurts, and I'm depressed. I need optimistic shit. Why can't it just be like, oh, we just discovered there's a whole bunch of hot Syrian bitches who want to just cross in? Yeah, let's do that. What an awesome day.
Well,
Why
would you know that they're hot? I don't know the female covering rules in Syria.
Syria, it's much more diverse, so
Okay.
you can have that, but generally the groups who aren't head covered in a burqa and shit like that, they won't talk to Jews. They'll be very internal community. Like Steve would be a decent example of something like that. Well, actually no, he would be the opposite of that. You know what? I don't know either. I mean, when I think about it, I mean, I can make some educated guesses, but I can go by what I've learned and the couple of people I know from areas like that. But it would be wrong of me to try to generalize that much.
Yeah.
I mean, people are people. And
people
if you've
are
got
people.
a bunch of hot girls, girls who want to go out and chill, people want to go out and chill. I'm gonna give this to the puppy.
Some will like you, some won't. It's the way of things.
Yeah. And I don't know. It's a big shit sandwich.
So, Daniel, you had an excellent kind of monologue going on there for a bit. Can I throw that on YouTube?
Sure.
Cool. All right.
As long as it's not got something about, as long as anything I say, you're more than welcome to record and put however you'd like. Only provide that if I'm mentioning like the names of people, either in the Discord or in my unit or like family like that, if I mention the names of the locations, just make sure you ask before you put up anything like that. For me, I'm fine. As far as I'm concerned, the people who want to kill me are already trying to kill me.
Fair enough.
I don't want to accidentally, though, put somebody in danger who's trying to stay safe. And from time to time, I can let something slip that a smart person could put something together to find out where somebody else is who isn't me.
Yeah. If I knew it, like if hold on, I'm gonna stop recording. 1 sec. Like